Hey guys, Scott Fishman here with a great guest, someone who has had quite a week in her personal life, professional life, everything going on. Mackenzie Mitchell, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate you fitting us in today.
Of course, thanks for having me. It's a perfect time to be doing the interview. I'm at my store in Nashville, Tennessee on Music Row. You can see the showcases behind me. You see the clothing, our iconic newspaper wall, if you will. So it's a perfect time. I'm so glad to be here and chatting with you guys today.
So many things to talk about, but first off, coming off of Slammiversary, such an emotional weekend. You were a part of it. You got to ring announce for the Hardys and the Dudleys, one last table. Kind of put into perspective, kind of how it felt. You've been part of TNA for a long time. What was kind of the atmosphere? How would you kind of describe everything that went down?
I think there was a lot of anticipation is a great word to really sum up what the weekend truly was for TNA. We've seen this resurgence, if you will, that people are talking about TNA. They're talking about what we're doing. They're talking about where we're going. I was in TNA from 2016 to 2019 when we were at Universal and we were doing the little sound stages. And then TNA had this moment of like a little dip, and then they're back up and they're elevating themselves more than ever. And to be standing in the ring at Bound for Glory in Boston, um, with 8,000 people, nearly 8,000 people, I should say. Sometimes it's just you don't take the moment to stop and really truly look around and look at what is happening in front of your eyes. For me, it was a moment to just get to soak everything in. You talk about the one final table match with the Hardys and the Dudleys, like that is the last time that those two iconic tag teams will be in the ring together. And I was lucky enough to be a small part of that. And I told Bubba this the other day that I wanted to really do them justice of their careers and everything that they've done and putting on their bodies on the line year after year. So for me, I was very lucky. I was very honored to be a part of that. And again, as I talk about you have to sometimes in wrestling it moves so quickly. Things go, and then there's the next show, and there's the next Raw, there's the next TNA taping, like there's the next moment. But for Bound for Glory, before I did the announcement for the Dudleys and then the Hardys, I just stopped and looked around and saw everyone on their feet for this moment. It was really an opportunity to get to pay respect to them, and so cool that I was just a small part.
Yeah. And what does it mean to you also having been in TNA? You don't know where life's gonna, turn. You went to WWE, NXT. Not sure, you're like, okay, my husband's here. I'm gonna be here for a while. And then, that doesn't happen. You pivot. And then I'm a firm believer in kind of everything happens for a reason. Now we're at
Mhm.
a time where WWE and TNA are working together and you're part of TNA again. So it's almost like you have the best of both worlds. So kind of put into perspective, how do you feel right now about your career when it comes to wrestling?
This is a partnership I had never thought would happen. I obviously started my career as we talked about at TNA for 3, 4 years of my life. And then I remember back then, in my resume reel that I was submitting to WWE to get hired by WWE, it was almost a feeling of I'm this TNA girl. And I think back then, like I legitimately, to get hired by WWE, I applied on the website, wwecareers.com. And I also went through and I made a new resume reel that was things that were outside of professional wrestling that weren't just TNA wrestling because I didn't know that for a fact, but it kind of felt like that was almost it felt like it was hurting my chances of being able to make that transition into WWE. And so I did. I went out and I filmed other things to just show my versatility and what I could do as a broadcaster. And now you fast forward to this partnership, something that we never thought would happen because they were just so separate brands. It was you're either TNA or you're WWE. Now to see the seamless blend of this partnership, I think it's something that fans can appreciate. And true TNA diehard fans are getting their feel, if you will, and WWE fans are getting their feel because these are matches that you never thought would happen. Javon Evans and Leon Slater, like what in the world? I mean, the talent that these two men have in the ring is really cool. So it's really awesome. I mean, to put it in just like a one word way, if it's awesome to see this partnership and the growth that there's been that has had been had and that there is to still come. And talking about working with my husband, like it's almost this full circle moment, right? Like starting in WWE or starting in TNA, I'm sorry, going to WWE, going back around to TNA and still doing this handshake moment is really, really awesome for me.
One of the things during Slammiversary we saw was Gia Miller and Tessa Blanchard. I'm just curious, in all your years, have you ever been approached about being part of a storyline? Is that something that you would be open to? Are you going to be taking bumps ever if you're asked? I mean, talk a little bit about that.
I have never taken a bump. I will say that. In all of my years in professional wrestling, I've been in wrestling for 10 years. I have never taken a bump. Now, it is something that you say in wrestling, never say never. So I always have to say never say never. I would like to, however, take some kind of bump, whether it's in a match or whether it is just behind the scenes, just so when I have kids one day, I can say, your mom did that one time and it hurt really, really bad. You know what I mean? Like, I think I would want to because I just would then get to be able to relate to what these athletes do week in, week out, putting their body on the line. I have been approached several times about having a match. And for me, it's always just a matter of like, I think I'm a better talker than I am wrestler or would be wrestler. I did grow up an athlete. I was a cheerleader. I was a dancer. I played volleyball. So I was very athletic growing up. If the right opportunity would present itself, maybe I would have my Michael Cole moment at WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Like, we all remember that moment. And so
Yes.
I'll say never, but it has to be the right opportunity for me.
Of course, we're also here to talk about the big announcement that you made. Threads of Triumph, Professional Wrestling's Most Iconic Looks, is coming out April 7th of next year. So much anticipation. I love this idea, this concept, something that you've been working on and off, you mentioned, for 5 years, I think, on social media, and for it to come to fruition. Talk about just seeing this book come, the announcement and all the response from everyone that, has seen the announcement. You've already gotten some great support. And then just the process of putting it together because, your schedule, I mean, you have your store that you're in right now, you have wrestling. I don't even know how you found the time. You have Vic, married life. I don't know. Was he at like, Cleveland games and you were like writing? I mean, talk a little bit about how you managed everything.
So, this book has been a labor of love. We'll call it that. I said this yesterday in my Instagram post, when it rains, it pours. And for me, like a lot of the times that's a negative connotation, but for me, this has been a year of doing. I dating back to like I had this idea for this book. Let's go back 5 years. When I was in the WWE, I was pitching this idea and I was pitching it to social. I was pitching it to digital. I was pitching it in multiple ways and it was getting no legs. It was getting no like traction, no, yeah, maybe. Okay, we'll see. I don't know if there's the demographic for it. And I actually filmed a pilot with Johnny Gargano that lives somewhere in the WWE archives of an actual episode with WWE. We filmed it, we did it. It was great. The conversation just flowed. It was amazing. And then it just never found its footing. And so then when I was released in 2023, I was like, what do I want to do? Well, I want to start up this podcast. So I kind of put that idea to work in threads with McKenzie Mitchell is what I called it. And I got a lot of love then and a lot of like traction and people wanting to have that conversation. And I interviewed Natalia and talked about the Hart legacy and everything that her family's done in the pink and black. And after we finished the interview, she said, McKenzie, this idea needs to be put into a book. The way you constructed your questions, they were so beautiful. And I'm like, Natty, how would I write this as a book? And she's like, let me help you. And little did I know at the time, she was writing her own book. And I said, okay. So I put a full 30-page book proposal together. I got a literary agent. My literary agent and I shopped this out to people. I got 4 offers in 2 weeks. So I knew the idea wasn't a bad idea and those conversations hadn't been had. So I got my offer officially in October of last year, started writing in every opportunity that I could, just to get my hands on a keyboard and just start to put things down and just start to think about how do I want this book to come across? What do I want people to get out of this? And then I was doing interviews with people all throughout this past year. I mean, Jericho's and Undertaker and Shawn Michaels and like legends in the business, Rhea Ripley. Like now we're talking about the current stars. I was just doing all these interviews and holding them, and I have them all in my database to be able to put them together to write them into this beautiful story that we're going to see. And so it's just been a lot of time and consumption of my life and finding time to be able to put that together in the times that make sense for me, wherever I am on a plane. Vic and I took a cruise for my birthday in March. I was riding on the cruise, like literally land, air, and sea. I have been writing this book almost in secret. in everywhere that I am this year. And it's been really cool to see the response of people as well. The conversations that have been surrounding this is, why has this not been a topic of conversation? This has never been done before. Finally, like somebody quoted me and said, finally, a book for me. Like that to me is so gratifying because it's no secret I grew up not watching professional wrestling, but I always loved the style and the fashion side of professional wrestling and what the wrestlers would wear and how they present themselves to an audience and that connection point from a fan to a wrestler. A lot of the times fans look at professional wrestlers and they go, I love this person, but they don't know why they connect to them.
Right.
So this book really connects those dots and it says, oh, but this is why you're connecting because they're wearing this. They're telling this story without you even know they're telling a story, without them speaking at all. So it's been amazing. And the support of the locker room at TNA, media like yourself, Busted Open, Bubba. Bubba actually said to me the other day, he was like, McKenzie, I've never bought a book on Amazon, and I bought your book on Amazon. So just hearing those words and just the support and love I've gotten from this has been fantastic.
I just love also the fact that it's a coffee book. I think that's a necessity when you're looking at, you're really appreciating the looks and the art and the thought process behind it. So I think was
Thank
that
you.
always kind of the plan to make it a coffee book?
Yeah, it always was. I wanted this to be I wanted this to be a visual representation to paint this picture of what we're telling and these stories that are being unveiled. There is untold stories in this book that have never been told. And I honestly, as I was going through this process and I was doing these interviews, people were saying, I've never been asked this question before. Like the Shawn Michaels of the world was like, I've never been asked this question, which is so hard. You can imagine all of the interviews and all the press and all of the media that these athletes have done throughout their careers, but this is a different perspective on the conversation. And so I wanted it to be biography text with inside baseball, exclusive stories that are written into the book, and then a beautiful photo that's beside it that really paints this visual picture of what you're seeing and what you're reading, and then those moments that fans can relive those, whether you're an old fan or whether you're a brand new fan. This is a book for everyone. So it's a day one fan that's like, I didn't know this, or I just want to think I want to get into wrestling, or a little kid, or someone that wants to be a professional wrestler and get to learn the art of it. But then somebody on the other side that has been a fan of wrestling for their entire life, they're going to learn something new in this book as well.
Yeah. And I think what's great is it's one side of the other when it comes to those who may commission someone to make their visual or have some input, but then you have the Bianca Belairs who are very hands-on with what they do because they do it themselves. So I think that's great that you have a balance. It's the biggest names in the industry, but it's also dating back to the 1940s and how it's evolved. I would even think about, what wrestlers were wearing or thinking about presentation and then moving into the Gorgeous George and the television era. And so it'll be fun to kind of see. I mean, I haven't seen the book yet. I'm really looking forward to seeing it, but I'm assuming it'll be really cool to see that evolution to today.
Yeah, I think the chapters, we really worked hard on making them kind of evolve throughout the years and what you were seeing before your eyes, dating back to the 40s, no matter all these generations of wrestlers and how these looks have evolved over time. And so when I say you date back to the 1940s and you think of Gorgeous George was doing all these ideas. He was implementing these ideas that were so out of the box and so out of character and out of the norm at that time frame. So, but you're able to take those bits of what he did and what he implemented and then see that into the Ric Flairs and then see that into the Charlotte Flairs and see that into all these people that are making this path, if you will, that started back in the 1940s with Gorgeous George. And so it's really it's a story to be told and how we evolve as people, how fashion has evolved over time, but fashion in the sport of professional wrestling and in pop culture, and how these athletes and these celebrity figures were doing things over time, that stood out, that were different, and now we're able to celebrate that past and celebrate and honor what they did, and that we're still being able to see these moments laced, if you will, into the threads of the current professional wrestlers that you're seeing today in WWE, in AEW, in TNA, and all the major promotions. It started somewhere and it started back in the day.
Yeah. I love the idea of threads too, that has more than one meaning and the literal meaning and then the metaphorical meaning as well. And then it's become so important, I think, with wrestling. I mean, I think you look at Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, they know people are going to be talking about them, like whether they like their look or they don't like their look. And just the thought process of how they put it together. And then thinking about every week, like a Naomi, for example, I just always marvel at her. And every time that we see her, it's a different little um, approach to what her overall presentation, but kind of staying true to herself. One that I talked to recently was Mercedes Monet, where she was talking about how she puts a lot of time and care in her presentation and the looks and things like that. And then lo and behold, you have her writing the foreword. So I think that's a perfect person for that sort of thing. So how is it kind of getting her? What does it mean for you to have her be a part of that book? It brings immediate eyes, legitimacy. That was a big get, I think, in a lot of ways for this.
I really wanted the person to write the forward to be a perfect fit in so many ways. And I think Mercedes is that perfect human. I think she is the perfect fit for Threads to write this forward. She's had such an amazing career in her own right, going back to Sasha Banks and all that she's done in AEW, and then her tie of what she's doing in Japan and the anime that she brings to life as well. Like she's very true to who she is, and you're able to see that come across in her character in any way that she's in any company, in any way that she's presenting herself. And I wanted this person to make sense for Threads, and you just marvel at when they make their way into the ring or they make their entrance, you stop and you stare and you just look at the details. And Mercedes has always done that. And so I shopped around a few ideas and kind of just thought, like, I really put time and effort into who I wanted this to be. And I'd reached out to her agent and said, hey, or first of all, you know what? I reached out to Mercedes and I DM'd her and just said, hey, I had this idea. I'm working on this project. What are your thoughts? There's nobody better, in my opinion, at this moment for someone to write the forward. And I'd really love to work with you on this. And I also I think it's super important to have a woman also write this as well in professional wrestling. I'm a woman author. I think women's wrestling is awesome. And I wanted another female to have a perspective on this as well. And so she connected me to her agent. And I mean, very props to her. Like within a week, Mercedes had this forward turned around, sent to me, no problem, and said, I'm honored to write this. And so it was just such a seamless moment of it all worked out in the way that it was supposed to be. And I hope that Mercedes and I get to do some things together as the book comes out in April. I really want us to do some signings together, and we're working on some things now, which would be really special for fans.
Yeah, so much potential for this. I mean, it's gonna have so much legs. I'm so excited for you, for fans, for everybody. So that's gonna be so awesome. Beyond that, you're in your store right now. I mean, you're a business owner. You're a mogul, I think, at this point. We need to call you like a mogul McKenzie, I think.
You.
We'll give you that nickname.
I love that.
So we're gonna add that. We're gonna do branding. We'll get t-shirts made.
Good
Um,
time.
talk about just being a business owner is hard enough online, but you have a brick and mortar store in Nashville, Music City, right in the heart of country music. I read Sarah Evans has worn your jewelry, so that others have, including wrestling. I mean, talk about just building this business. Your family business has been around for over 75 years, and now you carrying on that legacy. And then talk about just what was the moment that you realized that this was really taking off, like someone that was wearing your jewelry that you're like, wow, this is amazing.
So, as you mentioned, my family's been in fine jewelry for 75 years. It's in my blood, it's in my roots. It's something that I've always connected to. I grew up in my family's jewelry store with my great grandmother, helping her close the ring boxes at the end of the day. And when we would get done with closing the shop, we would go and get a snow cone. That was my reward. And every day after school, that's where I was. And so, about 3 years into my WWE career, I wanted some kind of creative outlet. I wanted to be able to connect to my family more than anything. My great grandmother passed about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And I always knew I wanted to do something in the jewelry industry and connect to my family in small town Missouri. I didn't really know how, and I didn't know how we would make that work. And so again, I was in WWE. I started figuring this out and making this creative process of like, what does a collection look like? What do I want this to be? What do I want this to represent? And so Headline by MM was born, and my slogan being "You are the headline." I wanted it to be the perfect blend in my professional life and my personal life, kind of creating this moment and coming together with the slogan "You are the headline." And so I started designing pieces. I made my first collection, which was the Drippin' collection. I actually went to Seth Rollins when he was at NXT. There was one show he came to NXT, and I said, "Hey, I'm creating a jewelry brand. Would you be interested if, would you wear a piece of mine if I created a piece?" And at that time, like, he did a whole moment where he was the drip god. And I said, "I want to do a Drippin' collection. I think you'd be the perfect fit to wear it." He's like, "When you make it, let me know. We'll talk." Fast forward, I made the collection. It did really well. People were supporting it. It was an amazing outreach I had from people. Seth wore my Drippin' necklace. You saw it on Trick Williams. It's now on Trick Williams' action figure that he has as my iconic Drippin' necklace. And then people just started reaching out to me to make custom pieces here and there. Lainey Wilson, I made a piece for Lainey Wilson. Me and her stylist worked together on custom lettering. Sarah Evans and I worked together on a bangle, Born to Fly bangle that is representative of her song and her life. And then in early April, I want to say, so that would have been last March, I reached out to Seth and I said, "Could I potentially create you a piece?" And he said, "McKenzie, whatever you want to create, I trust you." We threw some ideas around. Some were very out there. Some were like just a standard logo. He said, "You make it, I'll design it." He wore it at WrestleMania for, like, I think SmackDown it was. And then we just kept making pieces and we kept making pieces. And it just kind of kept coming this thing. And so it's been this amazing, like, rise, if you will, of creating pieces and then seeing the wrestlers that want something. It's been a snowball effect from Seth Rollins to Jeff Hardy just wearing a piece of my Bound for Glory. It has just been snowballed, and I'm so excited to see where we can go with this and how we can build this dream.
And I just realized I just called it Slammiversary, but yes, Bound for Glory is what we
Bound
were
for
talking about
Glory.
earlier. This we'll just come around from that. And as you're talking, I'm like, man, I said Slammiversary. I don't know why I mentioned that, but yes, Bound for Glory. um,
Yes.
does uh does Vic have a lot of your pieces? Is he wearing
None.
anything?
Zero.
Nothing.
None.
Come
I say,
on.
listen, I say this to my husband all the time. I'm like, I know a thing or two about fashion. Like, why do you not want to just listen to me? Like, put on a necklace, put on like a lapel pin. There's so many things we could do. My husband is very set in his ways, very set in his ways. And so we're working on it.
Okay.
The other day we were at Disney with the Garganos, and Johnny was wearing a nice bracelet. And I'm like, "See, Johnny's wearing a bracelet. Why can't you wear a bracelet?" Like, Shawn Michaels was wearing a really nice watch the other day. And I'm like, "See, Shawn is wearing a nice watch. This is how it goes." So maybe he'll start eventually wearing something. But to keep it simple, he owns zero of my pieces. Um, and it is one of those things too, like when you're growing up and your mom's like, "Oh, you honey, you should wear this." And you're like, "Mom, that's a dumb idea." It's similar in the fact that, like, he still doesn't believe that I know what I'm talking about. Maybe one day he'll finally realize, like, okay, my wife does know what she's talking about here.
He just needs to have someone else, not you, just come up and be like, hey, or give it to him as a gift, and then he's got to wear it, and it ends up being yours. That might be like a roundabout way of doing
100%. That's it. Maybe that's how we should do it, is we should make it
it.
giftable.
So, Mogul McKenzie, tell us how people can get your jewelry. They can pre-order the book right now. It's coming out next year around WrestleMania time, which is awesome timing for that. Let people know how they can follow you.
Absolutely. So Headline by MM on all socials. We have a website as well where you can order some of the other pieces. People even DM me, fans alike, asking for custom pieces. So that's always an opportunity. That's always kind of a case scenario that you can work with me on a one-of-a-kind piece when it comes to Headline. And with Threads of Try-On Professional Wrestling's most iconic looks, pre-orders available on anywhere you can think of. Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble. We have some options for international as well. So Waterstone over in the UK, and then Indigo in Canada, so they don't have to pay the tariff and the shipping fees there. And then all of that, it can be found on my link tree, on my website on McKenzieMitchell.com, or my social media, Mackenzie N. Mitchell, on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. Everything is findable there, but the book will be available through that link tree on my pre-order, and through my website there.
So the holidays are coming up, so you have so many options for McKenzie's products that you can kind of bundle together. Maybe you want to get the book for someone, pre-order it, and then you package it in a jewelry box from Headline. I think
And
that would be
honestly,
perfect.
we may be doing some things for Black Friday, and maybe I'm just saying this out loud. We may be doing some things for Black Friday and for Christmas where people can, if they pre-order, then we'll get an opportunity where you get a physical, tangible item before April, for loved ones, for yourself, for Christmas. So we will be doing some announcements coming soon of all the ways that you can still stay connected to Threads of Triumph before we get to April.
Oh, that's amazing. For a second, I thought we were on QVC or Home Shopping Network, but that was great.
Hey, I have done work on
Yeah,
HSA,
I was gonna
so
say
that's my
you and Sarah Schreiber too.
That's it.
You
That's
guys,
it.
we need to get her on board to sell some of your products.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie. It's always great catching up with you. We'll definitely be catching up with you again as it gets closer to the book launch. There's so much to talk about when it comes to that project. So definitely looking forward to catching up again. So thank you so
I
much.
can't wait. All the secrets will be divulged. We'll be able to give some thoughts and go through all the stories and all the exclusives I learned. So I'm excited for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.